I'm sitting in my Porsche, parked in a dark turnout on Pacific Coast Highway, watching my family celebrate my destruction on an iPad screen through the security camera feed. I can see everything: the crystal chandeliers, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Malibu coastline. My mother, Camilla Barrett, standing in the center of the great room, gesturing wildly towards the ocean. My two younger sisters, Lillian and Brittany, are draped across the white leather sectional, phones in hand, already planning their next TikTok. My mother raises her glass. The audio comes through tinny but clear. "Finally," she says, her voice dripping with relief. "Gloomy Sloane is gone. She's only useful as a wallet anyway. Having her in the frame just ruins our fancy family aesthetic." Lillian giggles. Brittany pans her phone camera across the room, narrating for her followers. "So this is our new $25 million Malibu mansion, guys. Ocean views, infinity pool. Pure luxury. Our mansion. I should feel something. Rage. Maybe heartbreak. Instead, there's just this cold, crystalline clarity settling into my chest. They think I bought this place. They think the paper mom snatched from the elite stars. Butler's hands. The one she signed without reading because she doesn't do the small print was a deed transfer. They think they just conned me out of a $25 million glass palace on the Pacific. They're wrong. I paid exactly $45,000 out of my own pocket to rent this house for 2 nights. A test, a final, expensive experiment to see if there was anything left worth saving in this family. The paper my mother signed so eagerly. That wasn't a deed. It was a rental agreement and liability waiver. She personally accepted full responsibility for any and all damages to the property. And right now, Sheriff Ward is about 15 minutes out. I zoom in on the screen. Mom is pointing up at the locked glass cabinet containing the crown jewel of the house's collection. A bottle clearly marked display only. I shift the car into drive and pull back onto PCH, heading east, away from the ocean, away from them, toward Hidden Hills, toward my real home. A $12 million estate they will never, ever set foot in. To understand how I ended up here, watching my family through a surveillance feed like some kind of corporate spy, I need to rewind about 6 hours. This morning, I woke up in my Hidden Hills sanctuary for the first time as its owner. The escrow had closed 3 days earlier. $12 million. 5 bedrooms. Valley views. An infinity pool that seems to pour into the Santa Monica Mountains. Gated. Private. Quiet. Everything Malibu isn't. I bought it in secret. Didn't tell my family. Didn't post about it for the first time in my adult life. I kept something precious away from their grasping hands. You have to understand, I've been the family life fund since I made my first million. At 26. I'm 32 now. 6 years of watching my bank account drain to fill theirs. 6 years of credit card bills for Brittany's Revolve hauls and Lillian's Coachella VIP passes. 6 years of covering Mom's Botox appointments and Dad's gambling debts that he thinks nobody knows about. I built my wealth through brutal work, a tech consulting firm that I grew from nothing. Sleeping 4 hours a night. Skipping meals. Turning myself into a machine that generated money. And somewhere along the way, I became useful only for what I could provide. Not a daughter, a wallet. But deep down, and I hate admitting this, I'm still that little girl who wanted her mother's approval, who wanted her sisters to include her instead of mock her, who wanted her father to stand up for her just once. So, I designed one final test. I told them I'd bought the Iron Palace. That's what the real estate listing's called. The Malibu property. A $25 million architectural marvel. All glass and steel and obscene ocean views. I invited them for a weekend housewarming celebration. Elite. Instead, I booked it through Elite Stays, an ultra-luxury rental service that caters to billionaires and celebrities who want to pretend to own property for Instagram purposes. 2 nights. $45,000 chump change compared to what I've spent on them over the years. But this time it was an investment in truth. I would watch how they behaved when they thought I'd given them everything. I would see if money could finally buy me their love. Or if I'd been fooling myself all along. Spoiler alert, I was fooling myself. The sun was just beginning to dip toward the water when we arrived at 6 p.m. The gate code worked perfectly. The circular driveway was lit with those trendy Edison bulbs strung between palm trees. The house rose before us like something from Architectural Digest. Planes of glass reflecting the sunset, the Pacific crashing against the rocks below. Mom actually gasped. Lillian immediately started filming. I felt a flicker of something. Hope. Maybe that childish, stupid hope that this moment might bring us together. Then the butler emerged. His name was Marcus. According to his name tag, impeccably dressed in a black suit, holding an iPad in a leather portfolio. Professional. Courteous. Good evening, Miss Barrett, he said, nodding to me. Welcome to the Iron Palace. I'll need to complete the digital check-in process before I can hand over the keys. He opened the iPad screen, glowing. I need the homeowner's signature to confirm the handover and acknowledge the terms of your stay. I reached for it. My mother's hand cracked across my wrist like a whip. Let Mom do it, Camilla said, her voice sweet, but her grip iron. She snatched the iPad from Marcus's hands. You're just the one paying, sweetie. But I'm the roof. I'm the one who decides everything here. My name goes on the papers. Marcus blinked, confused, but said nothing. It wasn't his job to mediate family dynamics. I should have fought her. I should have taken that iPad back and signed it myself. But I didn't. Because in that moment, watching my mother's manicured fingers swipe carelessly across the screen, not even scrolling down to read the terms and conditions, I realized something. She was going to hang herself. And all I had to do was hold the rope. The screen clearly stated this is a rental agreement and liability waiver. The signing acknowledges full responsibility for any damage to the property, its contents, and any associated costs. At Aji Amanda, Camilla Barrett signed her own name with a flourish, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. She had no idea she'd just signed her own sentence. By 7 o'clock, the sun had vanished and the party had officially begun. I use the word party loosely. It was more like a photo shoot with catering. Marcus had arranged for a private chef, a young guy named Connor, who'd trained at some Michelin-starred place in Napa. He'd prepared a spread that belonged in a magazine. Butter poached lobster tails, truffle risotto, heirloom tomato salad with burrata that cost more per ounce than gold. My family didn't taste any of it. They photographed it. Lillian arranged the lobster on her plate in 17 different configurations, adjusting the lighting, the angle, the filter. Brittany filmed herself pretending to eat the risotto, then spit it into a napkin the second the video stopped recording. Carbs are the enemy, Sloane, she said, wrinkling her nose at me like I was the disgusting one for actually eating. Mom circulated through the house with a champagne flute, narrating for the camera in her hand. This is my daughter's new home. Well, really, it's the family home. This is where we'll be spending our summers. I sat on a bar stool in the kitchen watching Invisible. My father, David Barrett, settled into an armchair near the window, scrolling through his phone, probably checking sports scores. Definitely not checking in on me. He'd mastered the art of being present but absent. A ghost who paid bills and kept quiet to keep the peace. I'd stopped expecting anything from him years ago. By 7:30, the chef had packed up and left. The food sat untouched, cooling, destined for the garbage. $4,500 worth of ingredients wasted. But that wasn't my problem. This wasn't my house. That's when Brittany saw it. The wine cabinet. It was mounted on the wall in the dining area. A climate-controlled glass case backlit with soft amber LEDs inside, arranged like jewels, was an impressive collection. The lower shelves were stocked with several bottles of 1996 Chateau Margaux, an exceptional vintage valued at roughly $4,000 a bottle. These were unlocked and available for guest consumption, though clearly marked with their exorbitant price tag in the house manual. But the sixth bottle sitting alone on the top shelf was different. A 1947 Chateau de Camp Sauterne. The little placard beneath it read $31,000 display only, not for guest use. Do not touch the glass door. Protecting it was visibly locked with a heavy-duty biometric lock. Brittany's eyes lit up like she'd spotted a designer handbag on clearance. Oh my gosh, she breathed, elbowing Lillian. Look at that. Lillian looked. Her mouth fell open. Is that real? It's $31,000, Brittany said, her voice reverent. She pressed her face against the glass like a kid in a candy store. Can you imagine the views we'd get if we posed with that? The engagement would be insane. I felt something tighten in my stomach. You can't touch that bottle, I said. 3 heads swiveled toward me.
Mom. Lillian.
Brittany. 3 identical expressions of annoyance. Like I was a mosquito that had buzzed too close.
Excuse me.
Mom said, her voice crystallizing into that particular tone she used when she was about to put me in my place. That bottle isn't for us, I said, keeping my voice level. It's display only. It's not part of the rental agreement. This was true. I'd read the contract carefully 3 times. Section 7, paragraph C. Display items marked as such are not included in guest usage and remain the property of the homeowner. Mom had not read the contract. She'd signed it and handed the iPad back to Marcus without a second glance. Sloan, honey? Mom said, her smile tight and condescending.
This is our house now.
Everything in it belongs to us. Stop being so paranoid. It's not our house, I said quietly, and that bottle is locked for a reason.
Sloan.
You're such a buzzkill. Lillian groaned, already positioning her phone for a photo. We're just going to take pictures near it. Brittany, however, had already grabbed one of the available $4,000 Chateau Margaux bottles from the lower shelf. She popped the cork with a loud thwack, caring nothing for proper aeration or respect for the vintage.
Don't.
I said louder now. Seriously? That's $4,000 you're drinking, or what? Brittany climbed onto a dining chair, wobbling slightly in her heels. She took a swig directly from the expensive bottle, liquid courage flooding her system. You'll tell on us to who?
Sloan.
You bought this place for us. She thought I'd bought it. They all thought I'd bought it. And, in their minds, that meant they owned it. Owned me. I looked at my father. He was still in his chair, eyes on his phone, pretending this wasn't happening, the same way he'd pretended not to notice, when Mom spent his retirement fund paying off her credit cards, the same way he'd pretended not to hear when my sisters called me the bank at Thanksgiving. I realized something in that moment. I wasn't going to win this fight. Not with words. Not with logic. Not with pleading. They were going to do what they wanted, and I could either scream into the void or step back and let the consequences find them. I chose the latter.
Fine,
I said softly. Do what you want. I turned and walked toward the hallway, toward the master suite. My suite. The room I'd specifically requested when I booked the rental. Behind me, I heard Brittany's delighted squeal. She's not even going to fight us on it. Man, she's so weak. I kept walking, but I wasn't weak. I was calculating, and my silence wasn't surrender. It was patience. I made it exactly 6 steps down the hallway before disaster struck. Behind me, I heard Brittany's voice rise and pitch. That particular squeal she makes when she's filming herself. The one that scrapes against my eardrums like nails on glass. Okay, guys, so today is literally my housewarming party at our new Malibu mansion. I'm drinking this insane $4,000 wine, and look up there. She pointed the camera and the open bottle toward the locked cabinet. That bad boy is worth 30 grand. We are living the dream.
Cheers.
The sound of the crash cut her off. Not the shattering of glass, thankfully, but the heavy thud of a body hitting hardwood, followed by the wet splash of liquid, followed by Brittany's shriek. I spun around. Brittany had lost her balance on the chair. She was on the floor, sprawled on her side, her phone skittering across the room. The open bottle of Chateau Margaux had flown from her hand and landed on the Persian rug beneath the dining table. Dark red wine spread across the cream and sapphire fibers like blood. That rug was worth $22,000. I knew because I'd read the insurance rider attached to the rental contract. Handwoven. Antique. Irreplaceable. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Lillian started laughing. Oh my gosh. Britt, are you okay? Did you get that on video? Brittany scrambled to her feet. Her face flushed with embarrassment and wine. Shut up, Lil. My phone. Where's my phone? Mom rushed over, but not to check if Brittany was hurt. She picked up the bottle of Chateau Margaux. It's empty, she said, annoyed. Setting the bottle on the table. Well, grab another one. There are plenty on the shelf. I stared at the rug. The stain was spreading a dark crimson bloom that would never come out. Not completely. Not without professional restoration. That would cost thousands. Nobody apologized. Nobody even looked worried. Dad glanced up from his phone, assessed the situation, and went back to scrolling. Sloan, can you grab some paper towels? Mom called over her shoulder, already staring Brittany toward the couch. We need to clean this up before it sets. Can you grab some paper towels?
Not. I'm sorry. Not.
We'll handle this. An order. Because in their eyes, I was the help. I didn't move toward the kitchen. I turned back, toward the master suite. My hand was on the doorknob when my mother's voice cracked through the air like a whip. Sloan, where do you think you're going? I turned. She was standing at the end of the hallway, backlit by the living room chandelier. Arms crossed. To my room. I said, that's not your room. She said simply. I blinked.
What?
The master suite has the best views. Mom said, walking toward me with that confident stride. She uses when she's about to take something from me. Lillian and Brittany need it for their content. You know how important their platforms are. They have followers who expect a certain aesthetic.
Ich zerrte her.
This is my house. And we're your family, she said, her voice sugary. Family shares. You don't even use social media, Sloan. You wouldn't appreciate the view the way they would. There's a perfectly nice guest room downstairs. You'll be comfortable there. She said it like she was doing me a favor, like I should be grateful. I felt something crack inside me, not break. That had happened years ago. This was different. This was the moment when the last thread of obligation, of hope, of that pathetic desire for their approval, finally snapped clean. Fine, I said. Mom blinked, surprised I hadn't fought her. Really? Really? I said. I'll take the guest room. Her smile was triumphant. I knew you'd understand, sweetheart. You're so practical. She turned and called down the hallway. Girls, the master's all yours. Lillian and Brittany came running, squealing like children on Christmas morning, grabbing another bottle of the $4,000 wine as they went. They were already planning their TikToks, already arranging the room in their minds. I picked up my suitcase and walked down the stairs, past the great room where the wine stain on the $22,000 rug had stopped spreading, but would never fully disappear past my father, who didn't look up into the small guest bedroom on the ground floor. A perfectly nice room with no view, no natural light, no personality. The room a guest would get, because that's what I was to them. Not family. A guest in my own life, a guest they tolerated as long as I paid for the privilege. I set my suitcase down and sat on the edge of the bed, and I felt calm, eerily, unsettlingly calm because my mother had just made a critical miscalculation. She'd kicked me out of the master suite thinking she was asserting dominance, but what she'd actually done was hand me the ultimate freedom. I no longer owed them anything. Not my patience, not my money, not my silence. The countdown had started the moment Mom signed that iPad. But this was the moment I decided to push the button. I pulled out my phone and opened my messages, typed Jane. Call me when you can. It's happening. Then I walked out to my car to get the rest of my things. I had a feeling I wouldn't be coming back inside. I pushed through the heavy glass door into the cool Malibu night. The air smelled like salt and jasmine, the kind of expensive coastal breeze that real estate agents put in listing descriptions. My Porsche was parked in the circular driveway, looking almost apologetic among the landscaping lights. I needed my laptop bag from the trunk, my chargers, the overnight bag I'd left in the back seat because I'd been stupid enough to think I might actually stay the weekend. It took me maybe 10 minutes to gather everything. When I returned to the front door, my arms full of bags, I punched in the code on the smart lock. 6 digits. The same code Marcus had given me during check-in. Beep, 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 beep. The little LED flashed green. Code accepted. The lock clicked, but the door didn't open. I pushed. Nothing. The heavy wooden door, probably mahogany, probably worth more than a car, remained firmly, completely shut. I set my bags down and tried again. Punched the code slower this time, making sure I hadn't miskeyed. Beep, 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 beep. Green light. Click. Still locked. My brain caught up a second later. The deadbolt. The mechanical deadbolt that had to be engaged from inside. Manually the old-fashioned way. The backup security feature for when wealthy homeowners didn't trust technology to keep them safe. Someone had locked me out. I stood there for a moment, staring at the door. My arms still full of luggage. Then I started laughing. Not hysterical laughter. Not angry laughter. The kind of laugh you make when you realize you've been playing checkers and your opponent just knocked the board off the table. I pulled out my phone and called my mother. It rang 4 times, long enough that I knew she'd seen my name on the screen and debated whether to answer. Finally, "Sloan, honey? What's wrong?" Her voice was syrupy fake. Concerned. The tone she used when she was about to gaslight me. "The door's locked," I said flatly. "Oh, sweetie, just use the code." Someone engaged the deadbolt from inside. "The code doesn't work on a physical lock, Mom."
Silence then. "Oh,
"Right that."
can you unlock it?"
Another pause. I could hear voices in the background. Lillian laughing at something. Music playing? Probably from one of their phones.
"Sloan."
"Honey, look." Mom's voice shifted, becoming gentler, which somehow made it more threatening. "We need some private family space for bonding. Family feelings. Your energy lately has been so negative it scares your sisters. They need to feel safe and happy here." I closed my eyes. "So you're kicking me out?" "Don't think of it like that." Mom's voice brightened with false cheer. "Think of it as we're giving you space too. You're always so stressed, working all the time. Go back to your apartment, get a good night's sleep. Come back tomorrow morning to help us clean up. We'll have breakfast together as a family. Doesn't that sound nice? Come back to clean up. Not to celebrate. Not to spend time together to clean up their mess. We love you, honey," Mom added, and I could hear the smile in her voice.
"Bye now." Click.
The call ended. I stood there in the driveway, phone in hand, listening to the distant crash of waves against the rocks below. That fake sweet tone. That passive-aggressive, "We love you," tacked onto the end like a participation trophy was somehow worse than if she'd just screamed at me to leave. At least screaming would have been honest. This was cruelty, dressed up as care. I looked back at the house through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I could see them. Lillian and Brittany dancing in the living room. Drinks in hand. Mom settling onto the couch, looking satisfied. Dad in his chair, still scrolling. They thought they'd won. Chased away the gloomy wallet. Secured the mansion for themselves. But here's what they didn't understand. My failure. Standing outside the store. Locked out of my house. Humiliated and rejected was exactly the proof I needed. The test was over. Result. Complete and utter failure. They'd show me who they were. Not in words, but in actions. Not in private, but on camera. With security footage that would timestamp every moment of their cruelty. I picked up my bags and walked to my car. Opened the trunk. Loaded everything inside with careful, methodical precision. Then I pulled out my phone and typed a message to my mother.
"Fine, Mom.
Enjoy tonight." I hit send. Started the engine and drove away. The drive from Malibu to Hidden Hills takes about 40 minutes. If there's no traffic. PCH to the 101. Cutting inland through Calabasas, winding up into the foothills where the houses disappear behind gates and walls and privacy hedges that cost more than most people's cars. I'd made this drive 3 times in the past week, getting familiar with my new neighborhood, but tonight felt different. Tonight, I wasn't running away. I was going home. 20 minutes into the drive. My phone rang through the car's Bluetooth.
"Jane."
I answered.
"Hey."
"Okay. Your text scared me," Jane said immediately. "What's happening? Are you okay?" Jane Whitmore had been my best friend since college. She was the only person who'd known me before the money, before my family realized I was useful. She'd watched the whole slow-motion train wreck of my family dynamics and had begged me repeatedly to cut them off. I'd always made excuses. "Not anymore. I'm driving to Hidden Hills." I said. "They locked me out of your rental of my house." I said, and I could hear the bitter smile in my own voice. Mom engaged the deadbolt, told me to come back tomorrow morning to clean up their mess. Said my negative energy was scaring my sisters. Unbelievable.
"Sloan." "It's fine," I said.
And the weird thing was, I meant it. Actually. It's perfect. They failed the test. The test? I needed to know. I said quietly. If there was anything left worth saving, if money could buy me what I wanted from them. And no, it can't. They don't love me, Jane. They love my bank account. And now I have proof. Jane was quiet for a moment. Then what are you going to do? I merged onto the 101, leaving the ocean behind. The night was clear enough that I could see stars between the streetlights. I'm going to cancel the reservation, I said. And watch what happens.
Sloan.
Jane's voice was careful. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Okay, she said, then I'm proud of you. Don't be proud yet, I said. Wait until you see what happens next. I hung up as I took the exit for Hidden Hills. The streets up here don't have streetlights. Just the glow of security lights behind gates. The occasional sweep of headlights from another luxury car. I pulled up to my gate and entered the code. The iron bars swung open, silently welcoming me home. My $12 million sanctuary. 5 bedrooms. Valley views. An infinity pool that glowed like a sapphire in the dark. And not a single person here who could tell me I didn't deserve it. The house was dark when I pulled into the garage. I'd left at noon, when the sun was still high, and the whole day had felt full of terrible possibility. Now it was past 9 in the evening, and I was returning to silence. Perfect, blessed silence. I unlocked the door from the garage into the kitchen, chef's kitchen, marble countertops, appliances that cost more than some people's cars. I barely used it, yet hadn't even had time to stock the fridge properly. But I wasn't hungry. I walked through the kitchen into the living room and stopped. The view and the view. Floor to ceiling windows looking out over the valley. The lights of Los Angeles spread out below like someone had spilled a jewelry box across black velvet. The Santa Monica Mountains rising dark against the sky. Quiet.
Private. Me.
Everything Malibu isn't. I poured myself a glass of wine. Not a $4,000 bottle. Just a decent Napa cab for my own collection. And sank into the Italian leather sofa that faced the windows. Then I pulled out my iPad. The Elite Stays app was already open. I'd logged in during the drive. Hands-free. Using voice commands. My reservation sat at the top of my dashboard. The Iron Palace, Malibu. 2 nights. $45,000 beneath it.
Check-in.
Complete. Guest currently in residence. There was a button at the bottom of the screen. Red labeled clearly. Cancel reservation. Emergency termination. I'd read the terms of service 3 times before booking. I knew exactly what that button did. The moment I pressed it, the reservation would be voided. My family would instantly transition from guests to trespassers. The property management company would be notified. Security would be dispatched. And because my mother had signed the liability waiver because she'd put her name on that iPad screen without reading a single word, she would be personally, legally responsible for every consequence that followed. I took a sip of wine, thought about every credit card bill I'd paid, every shopping spree I'd funded. Every time I'd been called the bank or the wallet, or just ignored entirely, I thought about being kicked out of the master suite in my own supposed house, about being locked out and told to come back to clean about my mother's voice. We love you, honey.
Bye.
I pressed the button. The screen flashed. Are you sure this action cannot be undone? I selected. Yes. Reason. Guests are violating contract terms, causing property damage, and engaging in destructive behavior. The app processed for maybe 3 seconds, then reservation canceled. Property management and security have been notified. Thank you for using Elite Stays.
Done.
I set the iPad down and picked up my phone. Found the number for Wagner Properties, the management company that handled the Iron Palace for its owner, real estate billionaire Richard Wagner. A man answered on the second ring. Professional clipped Wagner Properties, secure line. This is Sloan Barrett. I said I just canceled my reservation at the Iron Palace. Confirmation number Delta 7739. Yes, Miss Barrett. We received the alert. Can you confirm the reason for cancellation? The other guests. My family are damaging the property. They spilled a $4,000 bottle of wine on the Persian rug in the dining room. They've been drinking heavily and are out of control. I tried to stop them, but they locked me out of the house. I understand, Miss Barrett. We're dispatching our security team immediately. We'll also notify local law enforcement to assist with the eviction. Do you feel you're in physical danger?
To know.
To know.
No.
I said I left. I'm safe. But they're still inside. And they're not going to leave voluntarily. Understood. We'll handle this. You should receive documentation of all damages within 24 hours. Is the contact information on file still current?
Yes.
Thank you for reporting this promptly, Miss Barrett. We'll be in touch. He hung up. I set my phone down next to the iPad, took another sip of wine, and waited. The cameras were the final piece. When I'd booked the rental, I'd requested temporary access to the security system, a common feature for high-end properties. The feed was on a separate app, time-limited to the duration of my stay. I opened it. 6 camera angles appeared on my screen, arranged in a grid. I could see everything. My family was in peak celebration mode now. The timestamp read 9:17 p.m. The coffee table was a graveyard of empty wine bottles. By my count, they had consumed 5 of the $4,000 Chateau Margaux bottles and were currently pouring a 6th. The $31,000 bottle in the locked cabinet remained untouched. But they were taking selfies in front of it, posing like royalty. At 9:31 p.m., headlights appeared in the driveway, feed 2 vehicles, a black SUV with Wagner security on the side and a sheriff's cruiser. I leaned forward. Wine glass forgotten. This was it. The security team reached the door. First 2 men in suits. Professional and calm. One of them rang the doorbell. I switched to the interior camera with audio. The doorbell chimed through the house. Lillian looked up, confused.
Who on earth is that?
Probably Sloane,
Brittany said, laughing.
her speech slurring, coming back to beg. Mom stood, smoothing her hair, already preparing her dismissive speech. She opened the door and froze. Sheriff Ford stood behind the security team, hand resting casually on his belt. His expression was granite. Evening, ma'am. The lead security officer said. Are you Camilla Barrett? Yes. What is this about? Miss Sloane Barrett has canceled the rental agreement for this property and filed a report of contract violations and property damage. This residence is now closed. We need everyone to vacate immediately. Mom's face went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, anger,
Fear.
She landed on indignation. This is ridiculous, she snapped. My daughter bought this house. We're not going anywhere, ma'am. The security officer said, his voice formal. This rug is a hand-woven Persian antique valued at $22,000. It's been severely damaged. And looking at the table, he gestured to the rows of empty bottles. You've consumed over $20,000 worth of private stock. Sheriff Ford's expression didn't change, but I could see his jaw tighten. He turned back to the living room. Everyone needs to exit the property immediately. You have 5 minutes to gather your personal belongings. Wallets, phones, keys only. Everything else stays. This is insane. Mom was screaming now, her composure completely shattered. My daughter is playing some kind of sick game. She invited us here. She bought this place. Ma'am, I have the rental contract right here. The security officer held up a tablet signed by you at 6:14 p.m. this evening. You acknowledged the terms, including the clause about liability for damages. You're listed as the responsible party. I didn't. I thought I was signing. She told me she bought it. That's between you and your daughter, ma'am. Right now, you're trespassing in a private residence. Brittany was still holding her phone, recording everything with shaking hands. This is entrapment. This is illegal. Miss, put the phone away, or I will. Confiscated as evidence. Sheriff Ford said. Evidence of what? We didn't do anything. Property destruction. Public intoxication. Trespassing. And if you don't put that phone down in the next 3 seconds, we'll add obstruction of justice. Brittany, emboldened by the alcohol and her own entitlement, stepped forward. She shoved her phone camera practically up Sheriff Ford's nose. I'm live streaming this. Say hi to my followers, you fascist. Miss.
Step back.
Ford warned. Make me. Brittany sneered, and then she made a fatal mistake. She shoved him. It wasn't a hard shove, but her hand made clear physical contact with his chest. Sheriff Ford moved fast. He grabbed Brittany's wrist, twisting it behind her back in one fluid motion. The phone clattered to the floor.
Hey.
That's assault. She shrieked. That's battery on a law enforcement officer, Ford corrected. You're under arrest. Lillian started screaming. You can't arrest her. She didn't mean it. She lunged forward, trying to pull the officer's arm off her sister. The second security officer intercepted her smoothly.
Miss.
Stay back. Don't touch me. Lillian screamed, thrashing against him. That's enough.
Ford said. Both of you are coming with me.
Mom was frozen, watching both her daughters being handcuffed. Her face cycling through shock and rage, and something that might have been fear. This is your fault, she hissed, but I couldn't tell who she was talking to.
Me.
Herself. The universe. Everyone out.
Ford said.
Now, the Barrett sisters are going to the station. The rest of you can leave voluntarily, or I can arrest you for trespassing as well. Dad stood up slowly, looking about 20 years older than he had that morning. Camilla, he said quietly. We need to go. This isn't over. Mom said, but her voice cracked. Sloan can't do this to us. We're family. You have 3 minutes, the security officer said. I watched them scramble, Mom grabbing her purse, Dad collecting their phones from the counter. The security team herded them toward the door. Lillian and Brittany were already outside, handcuffed in the back of Sheriff Ford's cruiser through the driveway.
Camera.
I could see them crying, mascara running down their faces. Mom stopped at the threshold, turning back to look at the house one more time at the wine-stained rug, the empty bottles of Chateau Margaux, the chaos they'd created. Then the door closed behind her. The security team did a final sweep, documenting every piece of damage with photographs and video. The wine stain, the open bottles, the food waste, all of it. Evidence. At 10:04 p.m., the last security officer exited the property and engaged the smart lock. The Iron Palace was empty, silent, waiting for its real owner, Mr. Wagner, to assess the damage and send a bill that would go directly to Camilla Barrett because she'd signed for it at 10:17 p.m. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring. It rang again. And again. On the 4th call, I answered Sloan. My mother's voice was raw. What on earth have you done? Hello, Mom, I said calmly. Are you calling from the police station? They arrested your sisters for nothing. You did this. You set us up. I rented a house. I said you destroyed property. There's a difference. You lied to us. You said you bought it. No, I said I purchased a property, which I did. Just not that one. You assumed you signed a rental contract without reading it. You locked me out of the house. You damaged a $22,000 rug and drank 5 bottles of wine that wasn't yours. All of this is on camera, Mom. All of it? Actually, I continued. You're going to pay for it. You signed the liability waiver. Your name, your responsibility. I could hear her breathing ragged, panicked. Sloan, please. Her voice cracked. We can work this out. Family helps. Family. You always help us, you know. I said simply.
What? No.
I'm done helping. I'm done being your bank account. I'm done sacrificing my peace for your approval. You failed the test, Mom. All of you test. What test? You're insane.
You.
I gave you a choice. I interrupted. I gave you a beautiful house, a perfect weekend, everything you could want. And instead of treating me like a daughter, you treated me like a servant. You locked me out of my own rental. You told me to come back to clean up your mess. We didn't mean.
Yes. You did.
You meant every word. And now you get to face the consequences. The girls are in jail.
Sloan.
Your sisters. They assaulted police officers. That's on them.
Please.
Mom whispered. Please. We'll do better. We'll change. Just help us with this, Bill.
Please.
I closed my eyes. A year ago, I would have done it. Would have paid the bill. Made excuses. Convinced myself that family was worth any price. But I'd learned something tonight. Some prices are too high.
Some people don't want to change.
And some bridges need to burn. No, I said again. You signed the contract. You pay the bill.
Goodbye, Mom.
Sloan, wait. I hung up, turned off my phone, and sat in the silence of my real home. My $12 million Hidden Hills sanctuary that they would never see, never touch, never ruin. I poured myself another glass of wine and walked to the window. The valley light stretched out below me, peaceful and distant. The infinity pool glowed blue in the darkness. I should have felt something. Guilt. Maybe. Regret. Instead, I felt light. Like I'd been carrying a weight for 6 years and had finally been given permission to set it down. Tomorrow my phone would explode with messages. Voicemails from Dad trying to negotiate, texts from my sisters, blaming me for their arrests, maybe even threats from whatever lawyer Mom managed to scrape together. But tonight, I was going to finish my wine, take a bath in my ridiculous soaking tub, and sleep in my own bed without dreaming of people who only loved me for my money. I walked upstairs to my master suite, the one with the valley views and the walk-in closet bigger than my first apartment, and the bathroom with heated floors. The one nobody could take from me. I set my wine glass on the nightstand, changed into silk pajamas, and slid between Egyptian cotton sheets. My phone sat on the nightstand, dark and silent. Tomorrow it would light up with chaos. But for tonight, for this one perfect night, I had peace. I closed my eyes. And for the first time in many years, I slept well. The morning sun hadn't even cleared the horizon when my phone buzzed with the notification I'd been waiting for. A smirk tugged at my lips as I opened the email from Wagner's legal team. The subject line read urgent payment due immediately. Legal action pending. I forwarded it to my mother without reading it first. She deserved the raw, unfiltered shock. 20 minutes later, my phone exploded with calls. I declined every single one, watching the screen light up like a Christmas tree. Mom. Dad.
Mom.
Again? Lillian's number. Probably from jail.
Mom.
An unknown number. That was definitely Mom. Using someone else's phone. Finally, a text from my father broke through. Sloan, please. Your mother is hysterical. What is this, Bill? I typed back. Read it carefully. Especially the part about who signed the liability waiver. By noon, I had received a 17-paragraph email from my mother that oscillated wildly between rage, denial, and desperate bargaining. I deleted it after the first sentence. How could you do this to your own mother? The irony was almost beautiful. The woman who'd locked me out of a bedroom I'd paid for was now asking me how I could. The actual invoice arrived as an attachment in my father's next email. I opened it with the same clinical detachment a surgeon might use to examine an X-ray. L8 stays, luxury rentals, final invoice property the Iron Palace, Malibu Coast Reservation, holder Sloan Barrett liable party, per signed agreement Camilla Barrett itemized charges, property damage, and consumption consumed and spilled. Wine 5.5 bottles ex Chateau Margaux 1996 at $4,000 and 20 cents, $2,000 Persian rug replacement irreparable Weinstein, 18th century Tabriz, $22,000. Subtotal property damage $44,000. Restoration and cleanup. Special cleaning services. Emergency call out $8,000. Furniture repair and refinishing $7,000. Subtotal restoration $15,000. Legal and administrative contract violation penalties $25,000. Security dispatch and emergency response $15,000. Legal processing and court filing fees $10,000. Subtotal legal and admin $50,000. Total amount due $109,000. Payment required within 72 hours. Failure to pay will result in civil litigation and asset seizure. I read it 3 times, verifying every number against my mental calculations.
Perfect.
Absolutely perfect. The final paragraph made my smile widen. Please note that the Barrett family has been permanently blacklisted from all Elite Stays properties nationwide. This decision is final and non-negotiable. My father called that evening. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won.
Sloan.
His voice sounded 20 years older. We had to withdraw from our retirement account. Do you understand what you've done? I leaned back against my kitchen counter. The real one in my real house. The one they'd never see. I spent $45,000 trying to do something nice for people who couldn't even pretend to be grateful for 4 hours. You tell me who did what? To whom?
Dad.
Your mother signed that paper because she was trying to help. She signed it because she wanted control. I interrupted. She wanted to be in charge. To be the one responsible for the big fancy house her daughter rented. Well, congratulations. She got exactly what she wanted. Silence stretched between us like the miles separating Malibu from Hidden Hills. Don't call me again, I said softly. Not unless you're ready to admit what really happened that night. I hung up before he could respond. 3 weeks later, I posted the photo. The infinity pool glowed turquoise against the amber sunset valley, lights beginning to twinkle in the distance below. I was stretched out on a lounger in my favorite white sundress, wineglass in hand, the very picture of serenity. The caption was simple: "Home is where the peace is." Within an hour, the comment appeared a fake account. Beach Babe 2847. But I recognized Lillian's distinctive typing style. Random capitals and all. Scammer, how dare you do that to your family? You're disgusting. I've been waiting for this moment. My fingers moved across the screen with surgical precision. I didn't scam anyone. I spent $45,000 to treat everyone to a party. The price you're paying now is tuition for a very expensive lesson on greed and ingratitude. Consider it an investment in your character development. Though based on this comment, the returns look pretty poor.
Don't contact me again.
I'm busy enjoying the peace at my real home. I hit send, then blocked the account. The messages came anyway through mutual acquaintances, distant relatives, even my old college roommate. Everyone had an opinion about what I'd done. You went too far. That's still your mother. Family is family. But here's what none of them understood. The woman who locked that deadbolt didn't see me as family. She saw me as an ATM with a pleasant withdrawal policy. The sisters who trashed a mansion I'd paid for didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a prop in their social media fantasies. I take another sip of wine.
I love le Pinot Noir.
Nothing fancy. Just delicious. And watch the sun sink below the hills. The silence here isn't empty. It's full of possibility, of peace, of finally being free from the weight of people who only loved what I could provide. Many people say I was cruel for setting a trap for my own biological mother, but I believe that when someone bolts a door to keep you out of a house in the middle of the night, a house you paid for, they've already severed the bloodline themselves. They just didn't expect consequences. True freedom doesn't come from owning a $12 million house or driving a Porsche. It comes from finally having the courage to let go of toxic people, even when they share your last name, even when they gave you life. Especially then the pool lights click on automatically as darkness falls, turning the water into liquid sapphire. I'm alone, but I've never felt less lonely. I'm finally home.
Subscribe.